Radha Ramana Hari Govind Jai Jai.
So, introduction to philosophy now. We're talking in the stream. I said there's two streams. One is philosophy and the other one's practice. So now I want to talk about introducing philosophy. Why should we study philosophy? Before I came to Krishna consciousness, I hadn't got a clue what philosophy was. I hadn't got a clue. I'd never really thought that logically about anything, or about the meaning of life, or anything like that. So our teachings, they're not just a series of beliefs that we accept on faith. Other religions, they have like a series of, like the creed, for example, and you just have to accept it. If you're a good Christian, then you have to accept all the articles of the creed. If you're a good Mormon, then you have to accept whatever's in the Book of Mormon. And there's no way of verifying that. It's a series of beliefs, and you accept it on faith. But we have philosophy, actual philosophy. One time I was talking to two professors of religion at Harvard. They're both Christians. So I said, in our scriptures, we actually have the philosophy in the scriptures. And one said, well, that's a new idea. So our teachings, it's a very systematic, logical presentation. And often we can relate it to our direct experience. For example, the pastimes and the relationships in the spiritual world, to some extent we can understand from our experience here in the material world. The fact that I'm not this body, the fact that spirit is driving this universe, we can directly verify that by experience. It's not just belief, it's a science. Like Prabhupada says, you're not this body. The body is changing, and you're the unchanging person. I remember when I was 5, I remember when I was 10, I remember when I was 15, 20. This is not a belief. It's the same for a Hindu or a Christian. It's a science of consciousness. So philosophy helps us to understand what the ultimate perfection is, and it helps us to understand what's the process by which we can attain that ultimate perfection. And also, it helps us to avoid errors in understanding, errors in practice and errors in realization. How many times we've heard devotees start talking, devotees also, not devotees, they talk and they say, well, I think it's like this, I think it's like that. And you see, it just plain doesn't make sense. So philosophy helps us to understand that. Or somebody's doing something, and you can understand, actually they haven't really understood what Krishna consciousness is, and what's the basis of the process for getting it. And another, why we should study philosophy, because it's blissful. Philosophy is an understanding. Darshan means seeing. It's actually understanding what is reality. And the soul becomes enlivened. We become enlivened when we hear this and when we understand that. It's wonderful. I remember when I first joined the movement, met the devotees, and there was one devotee who was giving classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, how King Parikshit received Kali. And I was listening, he was describing how society can be raised. I thought, wow, this is like, before it was night and this is day. It's not like it's better than anything else. It's like, it's the real thing. And this is the first time I've heard anything like that. Wow, this is amazing. What an amazing experience. So, what is our philosophy? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has summarized all the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in a series of teachings called Dasa-mula-tattva. He's talking about 10 essential teachings. So these, just briefly summarizing these 10 essential teachings. He says, first of all, what is the real source of knowledge? That's the Vedas, or the literature is based on the Vedas, Vedic scriptures. Second thing is that the supreme absolute truth is not a void, it's not just energy, it's a beautiful personality. And that personality has a name, it's got many names. Hari, or Krishna, Vishnu. This is the supreme absolute truth. That supreme Lord is all-powerful. He's full of all potency. And he's the ocean of transcendental mellow. Beautiful love, loving relationships, loving exchanges. Everybody loves God and God loves love. So he's a connoisseur of the beautiful loving exchanges with his devotees. Then the fifth thing is that the living entities, we We're his separated parts and parcels. We're not different. We're separated from him, but at the same time, by nature, we're totally connected with him. We'll discuss that more in a minute. Of those living entities, some are conditioned under the influence of the material energy, and some are liberated from the material energy. Then, everything in this universe is simultaneously, it's Krishna's energy, both matter and also the living entities. So all Krishna's energy. Krishna's material energy, Krishna's marginal energy. And it's all, at one and the same time, it's distinct from Krishna and not distinct from Krishna. As, I'll explain that also in just a minute. What is the process by which we can get Krishna consciousness? What is the process for attaining perfection? That is pure devotional service. Pure loving devotional service. Shuddha bhakti. And we'll explain what is actually pure devotional service. And then finally, what is the goal? What is the perfection of life? The perfection of life is pure transcendental love and service to Krishna. That is the goal of life. So these are the 10 root truths that Thakur Bhakti-Vinod has taken from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And all of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, they're all contained in these 10 truths. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put forward a very special philosophy. And his philosophy is, it's called Achinchi Veda Veda Tattva. No, what's his name? Krishna Kanta, yeah. So he made this recording, Achinchi Veda Veda Tattva. Budara described, he went to one gig, so there's really tamasic cavern, everyone smoking and pints in their hands, and then Crispin got up on the stage and he's playing, and they're all chanting, Achinchi Veda Veda Tattva, Achinchi Veda Veda Tattva. So what is that philosophy actually? What does it mean? Achinchi, it's inconceivable. Ved abhed. At one and the same time, the energy is distinct from the energetic, the source of the energy, and at the same time it's not distinct. Example, sun. We can't have the sun without sunshine. And you can't have the sunshine without the sun. So in that sense, they're not separate from each other. They're not separate. But at the same time, the sun is the sun and the sunshine is the sunshine. We can live in the sunshine, we can't live in the sun. So in that sense, they're distinct. That's an example. The energetic, the sun is the source of the energy, and the sunshine is the energy itself. So we're also energy of Krishna. So one at the same time, we have our own individuality, our own individual existence, but yet we're not distinct from Krishna. We're not separate from Krishna. Same with the material energy. So everything that exists, it's the energy of Krishna. It's not different from him, and at the same time, it's part and parcel of him. That's his special philosophy. We see that even in the material world. Like, for example, a cup. What's a cup? A cup is something you drink from. Otherwise, it's just a chunk of metal. So when we're part of a greater whole, then we find our real identity. When we belong to something greater than ourselves. So spiritually also, when we find our relationship with Krishna, then we find our real self. Like supposing somebody shows you, something like that. What's this? That's a hand. But then he shows, there's no body. Then it's not like a hand, like this is a hand. It's something different. So we find our identity when we're connected up with the Supreme Whole. And that's the purpose. The purpose of the Krishna Consciousness movement, our practice of Krishna Consciousness, is to express that relationship directly. Hare Krishna.